Hi, welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and this is the Aston Martin Heritage Festival at Brooklands. Now what many people might not know is the pre-war Aston Martin factory was located very close to here, and in fact Brooklands was actually used as a test track. So connections with the Aston Martin brand and Brooklands go back a long way, way before the time that they actually moved to their Newport Pagnell base. So one of the first cars is a current car. It's the F1 Db11 Pace Car, which is a very interesting car, isn't it? So if it can keep Formula One cars at bay in the event of an incident as a pace car, then I think it's doing very well. And I guess this speedster version with the small aero type screens and somewhere to store your crash helmet in the back for both the passenger and the driver does have some appeal. It's certainly a lovely looking car, isn't it? Very nice DB7 GTA, and next to it, and this is a stunning colour, isn't it? It's a Db6, and Db6 is such a well-known car, but I can't recall ever seeing one like this. It's a 1969 Db6, as you can see there. Price on application. Okay, I might wait until afterwards to see how much they want for that one, I think. Later cars here. We'll walk around and see some earlier cars a bit further round. Some of the Mark specialists are here, probably people at RS Williams, I guess. Beautiful. I think that's that Db6 that people are crowding around there. A gorgeous colour. That's a racing one, isn't it? A racing one. Great to be able to get a close look at this engine now the bonnet's off. DBX, as you know, is the latest four-wheel drive. It's the first crossover Aston Martin to built, and they built it in Wales. We've got an earlier, I think that's a Db7 Zagato bodied car for sure. As you can probably see there, there's a Zagato symbol on the side, and probably the style influences are more marked from the rear of the car. Yes, they are. Certainly doesn't look like anything else, does it? This DBS is an absolutely glorious looking car, isn't it? I just love that colour. Superlega, apparently translated means super light, I'm reliably informed, but this is quite a very handy little lift from my garage. I just need the garage and I need the Aston Martin to go in it, but then I've cracked it. I certainly know where to get the lift. And fresh from the 007 set is this V8 Vantage, and next to it we can see the car that we all know and love. Let's go and have a closer look at that. So that beaten up paintwork and those machine guns means that can only be James Bond's car. A little bit beaten up. It's I suspect probably one of the numerous replicas they made. I think they were engined with BMW M3 engines or something like this. Plenty of these built for filming, and a few have survived in one piece, albeit with a little bit of paintwork. That might take a bit more than T-cut, guys, to get that one out. And then from an earlier film, we've got his fantastic DBS there as well. What a nice display. I guess many of you will remember this, driven by the character Brett Sinclair, played by Roger Moore in The Persuaders, while his counterpart Tony Curtis drove, I think, a Ferrari Dino. Brett Sinclair drove this beautiful tangerine coloured DBS. What a lovely car, and I think he was reunited with this before his death. He actually saw the car again. It's an absolutely stunning car, isn't it? I absolutely love that colour. That's glorious. Very nice 1965 Db5 drop head for sale here. I'm not going to ask the price because I can't afford it. Maybe this is more in my budget. An Aston Martin V8 Vantage X-Pack from 1987. I love the colour. Originally owned by the U2 guitarist is this V550 V8 Vantage from 1994, and now offered for sale. Lovely colour as well, isn't it? And another glorious Db7 Zagato. I've only just seen one of those. They only built 90 of them apparently, and I've seen 2 already. I've only been here a few minutes. And a 1987 V8 Velante X-Pack. Velante being used for the drop head versions of the car. Next to it, a lovely Db6, another one. Never seen so many Aston Martins together, particularly Db6s built in the low thousands, but there's quite a few of them here today. And also we've got here next to it, you can see the Db6 Velante. I think Prince Charles still has one of those, and I think he converted it to run on biofuel of cheese and wine, allegedly. Not sure about that. Next to it, we've got one of my favourites. It's the Dbs Vantage from 1970, so an earlier car, probably just after the car that we saw earlier that was driven by Brett Sinclair in the Persuaders. Again, a glorious, glorious heritage colour that is, isn't it? Completing almost a set of colours is another Dbs in this lovely dark blue, quite unusual. And then we've got, over there as well, we've got a V8 Velante from 1989. That's a pretty coloured car as well, isn't it? Now I guess this dashboard can only belong to a Db5 Velante again. Perfect car for the weather these past few weeks here, and particularly today. And the Db5 is as pretty as the Db6 from the front. Again, these cars are worth upwards of probably £500,000. Another V8 Vantage there as well. You're going to see a few repeats here, but as I say, if there's an Aston Martin in the UK, it may well be here today. Here's some super, super early cars here. I won't even attempt that to even pretend to be an expert on the pre-war Aston Martins, of which there were many, as you can see here. Let's take a look down here as well. Amazing how far some of these cars have come to be at this event. It's obviously the place to be for Aston Martins. This one's on the move. I'll try not to get run over in the sake of creativity. You can't quite smell the fuel, but it's pretty rich. And we've got old and new together. We've got this Db5 in this beautiful light green colour, and next to it, I think this is the Dbs or Vanquish. Again, I need to brush up on my Aston Martins. Drop it in the comments if you know. You probably know better than me if you're an Aston Martin expert. And in fact, this GT12 is yours for a mere £329,000, just a snip under 330. What a car. Now this is a rare Vignali bodied 1954 Aston Martin Db2 Vignali Coupe. Very unusual design. Is it a better Aston Martin than Aston Martin might have designed? Possibly maybe better than the Db2. We'll see some of those a bit further around, hopefully. Extremely close related to the Jaguar XJS, and indeed because of that to the Jaguar XK8 is the Aston Martin Db7. These cars in actual fact are pretty good value at the bottom end. You can pick them up for about £15,000. I'm not quite sure what that would get you, but here's one being sold by J.H. Pierce if anybody's interested. And then next to it we've got, sorry, it's getting busy around here again, Aston Martin Dbs, also for sale. Also for sale is this Aston Martin Db5, a 64 car, just out of a £20,000 refit. So looking spick and span at the Runnymede Motor Company, so shout out to them if you're interested. Give them a call. These earlier cars might be in the shadow of Db5s and 6s, but this Db3 is a very pretty car, and I remember back in the day a battered green version of this visiting our school. So you know, they were just used cars then, that's all. This one's been gloriously prepared again by Runnymede Motor Company, and look at that engine blade. It's a bit dusty here today, but you can see how beautifully prepared that is. What a super, super looking car, and interior is much the same as well. I mean, that car is just ready to roll, isn't it? Glorious. And a 66 Db6 Vantage in deep ocean blue. I'm reliably informed, I didn't know that, I've had to check that out. again from Runnymede Motor Company. That's a lovely looking car as well, isn't it? Aren't they all lovely looking cars? These late DBS shaped cars do have some appeal. I do like this sort of blanked out body colour grille and obviously the vents beneath it. It's a pretty car. Obviously one in the process of being restored here, which is lovely. So many of these cars around here you'll be able to see at Bonhams. If you go onto the Bonhams website, I'm sure they'll have a lot more interesting insight and information than I've got just on my walk around here. At last I've found a car that matches my budget. Wow, it's a Db5, yeah. Okay, it's a junior Db5, I'll be honest. I'm not even sure I've managed to get into it, maybe my son would. And a lovely 2012 V8 Vantage Roadster, which can be yours at a tad under £130,000. What a bargain. We can also take a close look at this DBS. I know it's another DBS, you've seen a few already, so bear with us, but we can certainly have a close look at the engine. It's going to absorb, going to take quite a lot of fuel, that one, isn't it? It's expensive to run, I guess, but this is a manual, so lovely interior. Thankfully this one's open so we can have a look, and actually, look, you know, it's actually practical as a four-seater. Almost having a nose as distinctive as Concorde are these Aston Martin Lagondas, the William Townes designed cars. There's a number here today. As you can see, only 665 were built. Quite an iconic design. We'll try and have a look at one that's a bit open so we can have a look and just see what they're like inside. And you know, some are variations, some have been lightly modded. You can see the different door handles and wheels on this one at the end that's been sort of smoothed out a little bit. That's definitely worth a look, isn't it? I guess that's a sort of more 2022 take on the design, but no less distinctive. I do love those quad headlamps. So as you can see inside, this is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. You'll fall into that leather. I'm sure it'd be very comfortable. Very, very advanced instrumentation on these from new. Okay, might be a bit old school now, but very, very distinctive. You can see that instrument panel down there. Now this was designed in the Victor Gauntlet era of Aston Martin leadership, and it's the one-off Aston Martin Bulldog, and I think it was going to be able to achieve something like 200 miles an hour. Now this one's been recently recommissioned, I believe, by Victor Gauntlet's son. You can see how those doors cut into the sill. Probably we'll try and get a close look. We're behind a bit of a barrier here, but you can see the doors themselves form part of the sill structure. Incredible car, isn't it? Now you definitely won't see another one of those today because there is only one. I'm not sure what the plural for Velante is, but we've got a couple of V8 Velantes resting in the shade here. One is for sale, so I'll have to keep a hand on the wallet. But that's they're both absolutely glorious looking cars, aren't they? Now pretty much you're going to see almost every variation here, and as I mentioned before, some of the Aston Martin changes are relatively subtle in terms of body styles, but sometimes the models are completely different engines, you know. So here we've got, I think it looks like a V8 Vantage again, and a couple of V8s resting in the corner. I do like these with these cast wheels. Look at the size of the tyres on this one. Those rims are tiny, tiny, tiny things. Oh my God, they're 225/70 15-inch rims. I bet there's huge benefits in terms of ride quality, but compared to a performance car today, you just wouldn't see that, would you? Aston Martin's Tickford division did have its finger in a number of pies and produced this Tickford Capri. These were super, super expensive back in the day, and there's two of them already here today. Even back in the 1980s, it was £18,581. Probably that's double the price of, or more than that, of the standard Capri. Obviously turbocharged, relatively small numbers built. As I mentioned before, as well as the Capris, these racing Pumas were also assembled by Tickford with these bespoke arches, significantly different to the standard car, built in limited numbers. Didn't really sell that well at the time, but quite revered now. Now what I didn't know, and I'm quite surprised to see because I've not seen one of these for years, is this Vauxhall Cavalier 2 litre I Calibra, and this apparently was also assembled, designed, engineered by Tickford. Now these are really, really rare cars. I do actually remember seeing this back in the day, but it's the Vauxhall Cavalier Calibra, as we can see there, with a 2 litre 8 valve overhead engine, producing just 130 bhp, so that's a standard engine, but they only produced 500 in this carmine red colour, and apparently it was jointly developed by Aston Martin, Tickford and Ermshire. Wow, I didn't know that. And one GOT is another Zagato bodied car, very distinctive. You don't see as much of this these days. I'm pretty sure somebody like Rowan Atkinson ran one of these, and you're certainly not going to see too many at this show. In fact, this is the first one I've seen, and next to it a beautiful V8, 78, 79 V8, lovely colour. And we've got, I guess, a late 70s on a cherries plate V8 Vantage, and a later car D8 RUR is this one, which is a glorious green Velante later car, as you can see. So we've got a 1950 Db2 Vantage. These are the cars that probably I remember, and as I said, you know, probably not as well known as Db5s and 6s that we all know, or certainly many of us know. Here's a Db2 4 Mark II, 4 because it's the 4-seater, the saloon. I suppose it's all relative in terms of space, isn't it? So this is an earlier Aston Martin. I'm going to have to look that one up and put it in the titles. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo on that one, sorry. Probably a Db2, Db3. Gonna have to get better at this, recognising these Aston Martins. This one looks like a Db5, am I right? Oh, it's a Db4. Just shows how wrong you can be. And again, that's part of the issue with these. You know, there are people who are far more specialists in recognising the cars. So if I get something wrong, I'll try and stick it in the titles afterwards. So apologies. Just admire the beauty of these cars. Again, you know, we're talking about cars produced in the low thousands, not hundreds of thousands, and so many of these here today, and such stunning colours as well. I mean, just look at this Vantage. I mean, that's a glorious looking car. I think this is the Dbs. It's a, what, 69 car with the twin lights. That's probably the V8. The V8 replaced the V6 in these, so there's a period of crossover. And then we're into the later cars, into the Db7 period, as I mentioned before, very closely related to the XJS, itself closely related to the Jaguar XK8, and you can see that the styling does bear a lot of similarities here. And here I think is the, I think we saw this car at an earlier event. That's the, I think the GT12. Now this is unusual, you don't see so many of these about. This is the 4-seater, the Rapide, Aston Martin Rapide, not sold in huge numbers. And then we're into the some modern stuff like the Db11s. Nestled in between, I do know that's a V8 Vantage. And next to it I suspect that is a Vanquish. I'll come back to you on that one. Again, I don't think I've seen so many Aston Martins together in one place ever. So it's a fitting centenary to the company that had used this test track back in the day to test their cars. It really is quite appropriate.
I do. Yeah.
And there are even more as we continue up the banking, so I'm going to try and pick out a few highlights for you there. And this is a road legal race car, looks resplendent in those Gulf colours, doesn't it? Iconic with motorsport, those Gulf colours appeared on the McLaren, I think at Monaco earlier on this year, but we don't often see them in racing so much. But wow, we really associate them with Formula One and with sports car racing. By far one of Aston Martin's most successful post-war models was the V8 Vantage, built right the way I think until 2017. This particular spec of this car is unique. There is only one in this colour and trim combination, but you can see produced in various trim levels, manual transmission, I think an automated or a semi-automatic transmission, but you can see there's quite a few of these cars here today simply on the basis that so many were actually built. Convertible Velante versions. We've got one there in we've got a Db9 there in fact in Gulf colours again. I've just seen one Gulf car and seen another. I think we're into further Db9s. Db9s actually look like pretty good value at the moment, and I'm told they are a bit more robust than the V8 Vantages. I'm not sure whether that's right or not, but they're certainly elegant cars, aren't they? So these are in the shade. It's a pretty hot day here at Brooklands today, so thanks to the owners who've made this Heritage Festival. Apologies if you're watching this and I missed your car. There's a lot to film, and at some stage I'm going to run out of battery. It's getting pretty critical now. Later, I think Db11 in the 59 trim, 59 special edition, I think celebrating the Le Mans wins. That's interesting, insignia on the side. They're celebrating 100 years of something, isn't it? Is that the centenary? Interesting. Again, if I miss anything, I'll try and add it in the titles. There's an awful lot to take in today, guys. There's, I don't know how many Aston Martins are entered today. I'll try and find out. But pretty much you've got some unusual looking ones as well. I'm just going to go and have a quick look at that yellow car there, which is quite distinctive. Not sure if that's a factory one-off paint finish, but you certainly wouldn't lose that in the parking, and you don't often see an Aston Martin in that colour. It's a V12S, Aston Martin Vantage V12S, with a mere 600 brake horsepower and a very lowly 201 miles per hour. 0 to 60 takes a leisurely 3.9 seconds. Where legal, of course. Also worthy of note is the Aston Martin Signet, based on the Toyota IQ, was destined to sell about 4,000 units per year or something like. It's got nowhere near that, just a few hundreds. It was really, I guess, a vehicle that was used to help drive down the CO2 of Aston Martin to avoid fines and give them a small car. The car was significantly adapted from the base IQ, not mechanically, but certainly in terms of trim. They're highly priced simply because there's hardly any left. But another stunning Zagato bodied Tourer. I think I've seen some content on YouTube about that one. That's a stunning car, isn't it? What a difference between that and the Signet. Here's another Rapide, originally destined to be called Lagonda and in the end became an Aston Martin. It's actually quite an elegant car, and again they're relatively cheap to buy used. Again, you're into huge running costs because you've got a car where the running costs haven't gone down, they've actually increased over time, and a number of other models. The V8 Vantages are actually quite accessible as well, but I do hear stories are a bit fragile. I don't know if this is true or not, and people seem to have a preference for Db9s as used buys. Now this Db7 Velante is quite special. It's a 96 car, but the first owner was Prince Andrew. Not sure what that does to the residual value, but now this is a distinctive looking car, isn't it? I think this colour reminds me of one of the Bond cars, but this is a Vanquish. You can look at the wider bodied stance of this car. So let's do the I Spy book of Aston Martins. That's the Db5 rear end.
After the long chassis car, let's just get into position now. You'll see on some of these cars we've got the Aston Martin.
That's the Db5 front end. That's the Db6 rear end.
Gold leaf. So NM4 is the green car. You'll notice it's got the gold leaf on there.
And that's the Db6 front end. Now I believe, although it's not badged as such, that's the Db4, looking at those front end lamps. And let's have a look at the back. It's harder than it looks, this, guys, isn't it?
Can't quite see actually, or maybe out of range to see what that car is.
And that's the rear end.
But yeah.
And there you can see the comparison between the 4 and the 5 at the rear. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm slightly less confused than I was a few minutes ago anyway. So these guys are ready to go up the hill. When the flag comes down, let's see if he's ready to rock and roll. And he's gone. Probably this one's going to go up a little bit faster, I suspect. Wait for it. Ready. Waiting on the starter's order, go. So thanks again for joining me on Lot 76 Cars at the Aston Martin Heritage Day at Brooklands. We've seen some absolutely iconic Aston Martins here. I've never seen so many Aston Martins together. I'd be very grateful if you'd please like, share, subscribe. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.